You better make room for me. Back to Ray.
Yeah! Yeah. And what was the question?
Who is Jerry Garcia? I think Jerry wondered too.
See that girl barefoot in the lawn, whistling and singing, she's a carry-on.
Here's a man who spent his whole life against the establishment, and at this point now is completely in the hands of lawyers and men in suits.
The material objects like guitars and bank accounts meant so little to Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. This nut stuff that went on after he died, it was so not Jerry.
What's the point in going around dirty? Do these people bathe?
Are they dirty?
Yes, half of them smell so bad. I don't want to stand
never got
there.
that close.
Jerry was there. You could feel his presence.
Free love and flower power. Turn on, tune in and drop out. That was the hippie scene that began in San Francisco in the 60s. Central to that scene was a rock band, the Grateful Dead.
You have audience on drugs, you have the band on drugs, you have this loud, frothing rock music that was going where rock music had never gone before.
And central to the band was a man, Jerry Garcia.
My father was Jerry Garcia, who was the lead guitarist and lead singer of the Grateful Dead, and some would call him the lead mystic of the band as well.
Oh, my God.
What's this spiel, Ray? What are we talking about?
It doesn't...
Jerry
We're talking about Jerry Garcia. And what was the question? As Beethoven was a composer, Garcia...
Jerry found his future wife, a merry prankster called Mountain Girl.
My mother is a fabulous woman named Mountain Girl, who's also, her regular name is Carolyn Adams.
She was funny, she was smart, she was hip, she could punch you, and she commanded respect in ways that other women didn't in that scene.
The hippie movement is like any other extreme action on the part of people. It'll die a natural death.
The world did move on, but the drugs stayed around, and for Jerry, they turned into a serious problem.
As time went by, certain drugs just creeped into certain people's lives, and unfortunately, in my father's life, heroin creeped in.
Mountain Girl, or Carolyn, was married to Jerry for 13 years.
Carolyn had an immense dedication to this guy, which she says was destroyed only by hard drugs, that she could live with everything except the hard drugs, and the hard drugs just ruined it all.
The couple lived apart, an arrangement which seemed to work until Jerry met an old flame, a filmmaker called Deborah Koons.
We ran into each other at the health food store. He came courting and he wanted to get married.
To marry Deborah, he had to divorce Carolyn, and the way he did it would eventually come back to haunt his estate.
My mother and father had hammered out a divorce agreement between themselves without utilizing attorneys, trying to go by their old ideals as childhood hippies, you know, and just make an easy agreement between themselves about a divorce so that my father could remarry.
The informal agreement meant Jerry would pay Carolyn $5 million in installments of $250,000 a year. Deborah became Mrs. Garcia in 1994. The man Deborah married had become an American cultural icon.
The fans who we call deadheads, are extraordinarily loyal.
We're going to take a ride back in the Wayback Machine, and this is a short, strange trip. Off and running. I think they're the deadheads that are so totally devoted to being deadheads that they do nothing but live the scene.
And would cross vast distances just to come to a show, and they would always see, you know, all of their best friends. So it was always like a huge family reunion.
Often you'll get a nod, you'll get a recognition, or you give a recognition. It's a nice feeling to have somebody in your family out there and meet up with them.
There's a family of people there that are just there to accept you and love you for who you are. You don't have to be anybody.
Unless you're Jerry Garcia.
I think that he just felt the responsibility to stay with the Grateful Dead and to keep it going as long as they needed him to keep it going. But I know that he didn't really want to.
He was sick to death of being Jerry Garcia. I don't think in his wildest dreams that he ever thought it would have gotten so big that they were playing in baseball stadiums to 60,000 people at a time, and that there would be another 15,000 people in the parking lot selling T-shirts with his face on them.
I knew from being with Jerry, he couldn't afford not to tour. No one bought their records, so they just had to go out there and sweat for it and build it up, fan by fan by fan.
Life on the road was taking its toll on Jerry, and he turned to an old ally.
The touring brings back all the drug stuff, because that was all, for so many years, the only way he could tour would be to do a lot of drugs.
Driving that train.
Jerry was a heavy cocaine user and had been addicted to heroin for years.
Watch your speed. Trouble ahead. Trouble behind.
We began to see that he had to stop touring because that was the way to eliminate this whole drug thing.
You would not put a man like that out on a grueling road trip and playing grueling shows for large audiences.
But they didn't want him to stop touring because they wanted to grab as much money as they could while they could. And he wanted to retire because he said, going on the road is killing me.
I guess some sad news has come our way. This morning, Jerry Garcia, our friend, my brother, passed away.
Jerry died of a heart attack at a drug rehabilitation centre near San Francisco. It was September 1995, and he had virtually cleaned up. He was 53 years old.
I think that for me was the saddest thing, knowing that he had died alone, you know, in a bed, you know, at a rehab, you know, with other people who are trying to dry up.
All the places he could have died, he died in a drug rehab thing. You know, and he died broke with no money.
A box of rain will ease the pain and love. You see it.
He wasn't exactly broke. His estate was valued at $5 million. But his co-executor Debroah had to fend off claims on the estate totaling $50 million.
Debroah the widow caused a lot of things to happen that the Grateful Dead themselves were uncomfortable with. But she's completely in charge of the Garcia estate 100%, and there's no arguing with her.
After just 18 months of marriage, Debroah tried to stop the payments to Carolyn, which she believed were too high.
He told me later how much money it was, and I said, why did you do that? He said, I would have signed anything to marry you. I would have paid anything to marry you.
Things have come a long way since the 60s.
Yes, the merry band, the Pranksters, are the stars in the movie The Acid Test.
Mountain Girl and the other Merry Pranksters still meet up regularly on the 4th of July.
Kneel down there, young man. Looks like you know what you're doing now. Looks.
Almost 40 years on, they're still up to their old tricks.
Hey, who's got something they want to send off in here? Old credit cards, lottery tickets. Here's my car keys. Here's car keys.
Carolyn and Debroah could not be more different. When their worlds collided, there was bound to be trouble.
Look out! Look out!
We were surprised one morning to read in the newspaper that my father's widow and Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead had made a trip to India to spread my father's ashes on the Ganges River.
Bob had a dream that we should put Jerry's ashes in the Ganges. So he said that he would like to put some of Jerry's ashes in the Ganges.
He never wanted to go to India in his life. The idea of throwing those ashes in there. And then the Bob Weir was with her, you know. I called up Bobby. He says, well, geez, I didn't think about it. Yeah, no, Bob, I guess you didn't, you know.
And it was in the newspaper all over the world that we'd done that.
I think anybody who's lost a parent would like to be involved somewhat in the spreading of the ashes, particularly when he had wished for them to be spread in the San Francisco Bay. So we got on the phone and found out that that was not the case, that only a small pinch of the ashes had been put in the Ganges River in India.